Princess Lyrae of the Valorian Empire stood at her bedroom window and watched the human work in the garden below. He was called Thomas, just Thomas. No family name, no titles, no history that anyone could find. He had arrived at the palace 3 years ago seeking work, and her father had given him a job tending the royal gardens. Thomas was not like other humans she had met. Most humans were loud and full of energy. They talked fast and moved faster. They filled every room with their presence. But Thomas was different. He moved slowly and carefully. He spoke only when someone spoke to him first. He spent his days among the flowers and trees, and he seemed perfectly happy to be forgotten by everyone. Lyrae found herself watching him more and more often. There was something about the way he moved, something about the peace that surrounded him like a soft blanket. In a palace full of politics and plotting, Thomas was like a calm lake in the middle of a storm. The Valorian Empire was one of the largest in the galaxy. Lyrae's father, Emperor Caden, ruled over 47 planets and countless species. The palace on their home world was always full of visitors. Ambassadors came to make deals. Generals came to report on wars. Nobles came to gain favor and power. Everyone wanted something. Everyone was playing a game. But not Thomas. Thomas wanted nothing. He asked for nothing. He simply worked in his garden and kept to himself. One morning, Lyrae decided to visit the gardens. She told herself it was because the flowers were beautiful. She told herself it was because she needed fresh air. But deep inside, she knew the real reason. She found Thomas kneeling beside a bed of blue flowers. They were called moon tears, and they were very difficult to grow. Most gardeners could not keep them alive for more than a few weeks. But Thomas had been growing them for 2 years now, and they were the most beautiful moon tears Lyrae had ever seen. "Good morning," she said. Thomas looked up. His eyes were brown and warm, like rich soil after rain. He had a short beard and hair that was starting to turn gray at the edges. He was not young, but he was not old either. Somewhere in between, like a book that had been read many times, but still had all its pages. "Good morning, Princess," he said. His voice was soft and low. "The flowers are beautiful," Lyrae said. "Thank you. They try very hard to be beautiful. I just help them a little." Lyrae smiled. She had never heard anyone talk about flowers that way before, as if they were alive, as if they had their own wishes and dreams. "May I sit with you?" she asked. Thomas looked surprised. Princesses did not usually sit in the dirt with gardeners, but he nodded and moved aside to make room for her. They sat together in silence for a while. Lyrae watched Thomas work. His hands were gentle but sure. He touched each flower like it was precious, like it mattered. "Where did you learn to garden?" she asked. Thomas was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I learned a long time ago, in another life." "Another life?" "Before I came here. Before I was a gardener." Lyrae wanted to ask more questions. She wanted to know everything about this strange, quiet human. But something in his voice told her not to push, not yet. Over the next few months, Lyrae visited the gardens every day. She and Thomas talked about many things, about flowers and trees, about the stars and the planets, about books they had read and places they had seen. Thomas had traveled to many worlds, but he never said why or how. He spoke about them like someone remembering a dream. Lyrae began to realize that she was falling in love with him. It was not the kind of love she had read about in stories. It was not fire and passion. It was something quieter, something deeper, like a seed growing slowly in good soil. Her father noticed the change in her. Emperor Caden was a wise ruler, and he saw everything that happened in his palace. One evening, he called Lyrae to his study. "You spend much time with the human gardener," he said. Lyrae lifted her chin. "I do." Do you love him? I think I do, yes. The Emperor studied his daughter for a long moment. Valorians lived for hundreds of years, and they did not make decisions quickly. But Caden had always trusted Lyray's judgment. He is a mystery, the Emperor said. We know nothing about his past. We do not know where he came from or why he came here. Does that matter? Lyray asked. Perhaps not. But I will not stop you from following your heart. If you wish to marry him, you may. But know that there will be consequences. Many will not approve of a princess marrying a common human. Lyray nodded. She had expected this. I understand, father. The next day, she went to Thomas in the garden. He was pruning a tree, moving his hands carefully among the branches. When he saw her coming, he climbed down and wiped his hands on his clothes. Thomas, she said, I need to ask you something. Yes, princess? Will you marry me? Thomas went very still. For a long moment he did not move or speak. Lyray felt her heart beating fast in her chest. You do not know who I am, Thomas said finally. You do not know what I have done. I know who you are now, Lyray said. That is enough for me. Thomas looked at her with those warm brown eyes. There was something in them that Lyray could not read. Pain, perhaps, but also hope. Are you sure? He asked. I have never been more sure of anything. Thomas took a deep breath. Then slowly he nodded. Then yes, he said, I will marry you. The wedding was held 1 month later. It was a small ceremony, as Thomas had requested. Only the royal family and a few close friends attended. Thomas wore simple clothes, as he always did. He spoke his vows in his soft, low voice. And when he kissed Lyray, she felt that quiet peace settle over her like a warm blanket. She did not know that across the galaxy, beings who had not spoken in decades were suddenly whispering to each other. She did not know that old enemies were making new plans. She did not know that her quiet husband had once had another name, a name that made empires tremble. But she would learn. Soon enough, she would learn. 6 months passed since the wedding. Princess Lyray had never been happier. Thomas was a kind and gentle husband. He still worked in the gardens during the day, even though he was now a prince by marriage. He said the work kept him peaceful. He said the flowers needed him. But Lyray noticed things, small things that most people would miss. Thomas never slept deeply. The smallest sound would wake him, and he would be fully alert in an instant. His eyes would scan the room before he relaxed again. He never sat with his back to a door. In any room, he always chose the seat that let him see all the exits. Sometimes when he thought no one was watching, his face would change, the softness would disappear, and something hard and cold would take its place, just for a moment. And it would be gone. Lyray told herself it did not matter. Everyone had secrets. Thomas was a good man now, and that was what counted. But the galaxy had not forgotten who Thomas used to be. It started with small things. A diplomat who visited the palace turned pale when he saw Thomas in the garden. He left the next day without finishing his business. A military officer from a distant planet asked too many questions about the human gardener. Where had he come from? How long had he been here? Did he have any scars? Emperor Caden noticed these things too. He called Lyray to his study again. Something is happening, he said. People are asking about your husband. Important people. Dangerous people. What do they want? Lyray asked. I do not know, but I have started making inquiries of my own. I have sent messages to our contacts in the Human Federation. The Human Federation was the government that ruled human space. It was not as large as the Valorian Empire. Humans had only been traveling among the stars for 300 years. But they had already built something impressive. Many species had underestimated them at first. Those species had learned their mistake. Lyray felt a cold feeling in her stomach. What did you learn? The Emperor was quiet for a moment. Then he said, nothing. The Federation claims to have no record of anyone named Thomas. No birth certificate, no work history, no military service. According to them, your husband does not exist. That is impossible. Yes, it is. Which means someone has erased him. Someone with enough power to make a human disappear from all official records. That night, Lyrae could not sleep. She lay in bed beside Thomas and listened to him breathe. He slept peacefully, but she knew he would wake the instant she moved. Who are you, she thought. What are you hiding? The answer came 2 weeks later. A ship arrived at the palace. It was not a normal ship. It was old, but it had been repaired many times. Its hull was covered with marks and dents from old battles. It flew no flag and showed no identification. A single passenger got off the ship. She was human, like Thomas, an old woman with white hair and sharp eyes. She walked with a cane, but there was strength in every step she took. The palace guards stopped her at the gate. I am here to see Thomas, she said. There is no one here by that name, the guard said. Yes, there is. Tell him that Admiral Chen is here. Tell him the silence is broken. The guard did not understand the message, but he passed it along. Within minutes, Thomas appeared at the gate. Lyrae followed him, curious and afraid. When Thomas saw the old woman, his face went pale. Lyrae had never seen him look like that before. He looked like a man seeing a ghost. Chen, he said. Hello, Commander, the old woman said. It has been a long time. Commander. The word hung in the air like smoke. Thomas led the old woman to a private room. He asked Lyrae to wait outside, but she refused. She was his wife. She had a right to know. They sat down, and the old woman looked at Thomas with sad eyes. I would not have come if it was not important, she said. I know you wanted to disappear. I helped you do it, but something has happened. Tell me, Thomas said. His voice was different now, harder, colder. The Krath are moving again. Thomas went very still. Lyrae did not recognize the name, but she saw the effect it had on her husband. It was like watching a statue crack. That is impossible, Thomas said. We destroyed them. The war ended 20 years ago. We thought we destroyed them. We were wrong. They were hiding, rebuilding, growing stronger. The old woman paused. They are looking for you, Thomas, and they want revenge. Lyrae could not stay silent any longer. What is happening? Who are the Krath? Thomas, what is she talking about? Thomas and the old woman looked at each other. Some kind of silent message passed between them. Finally, Thomas turned to Lyrae. His face was full of pain. I never wanted you to know, he said. I thought if I ran far enough, if I hid well enough, the past would never find me. I was wrong. Tell me, Lyrae said, please. Thomas took a deep breath. My real name is not Thomas, it is Thomas Cole. 20 years ago, I was the commander of the human fleet. I led our ships in a war against a species called the Krath. They were conquerors, destroyers. They had wiped out hundreds of worlds before they came to human space. He paused, his eyes looking at something far away. The war lasted 7 years. Millions died. We were losing. The Krath were stronger, more advanced. They should have won. But we found a way to stop them. I found a way. What did you do? Lyrae whispered. Thomas met her eyes. In that moment, he did not look like a gardener anymore. He looked like something else entirely, something ancient and terrible. I did what I had to do, he said. I destroyed their homeworld, their colonies, everything. I killed billions of them in a single day. I ended the war, but I became a monster to do it. The room was silent. Lyrae felt like the floor had disappeared beneath her. They called me the Reaper, Thomas said. I was the most feared human in the galaxy. When the war ended, I could not live with what I had done. So I ran. I changed my name. I found a quiet corner of the universe and tried to become someone new. Someone who grew things instead of destroying them. He reached out and took Lyray's hand. I am sorry I did not tell you. I was afraid. Afraid you would look at me the way everyone used to look at me. Like I was a monster. Lyray did not know what to say. Her husband, her gentle gardener, was a war criminal. A killer. The Reaper. But he was also the man who touched flowers like they were precious. The man who spoke softly and moved carefully. The man who had given her peace. The Krath, she said finally. They are coming for you? Yes, the old woman said, and they will destroy anyone who stands between them and their revenge, including this empire, including you. Lyray looked at Thomas. She saw the fear in his eyes. Not fear for himself, but fear for her people. Then we will have to stop them, she said. Thomas stared at her. You would still stand with me, after everything I just told you? Lyray squeezed his hand. You are my husband, she said. Whatever you were before, you are mine now, and no one threatens my family. For the first time since the old woman had arrived, it was a small smile, sad and grateful. I do not deserve you, he said. Probably not, Lyray agreed. But you have me anyway. The war was coming, the past was catching up, but they would face it together. The news spread through the palace like fire through dry grass. The quiet human gardener was not what he seemed. He was Thomas Cole, the Reaper, the man who had ended the Krath War. Some servants were afraid. They had heard stories about the Reaper, terrible stories about burning planets and dying stars. They looked at Thomas with wide eyes and hurried away when he passed. But others looked at him differently, with respect, with wonder. The Krath had been a nightmare. They had destroyed countless civilizations before the humans stopped them. If not for Thomas Cole, the galaxy might look very different today. Emperor Caden called a meeting of his advisors. Thomas sat at the table beside Lyray. Admiral Chen sat across from them. The old woman had refused to leave. She said she had come too far to go back now. Tell us about the Krath, the Emperor said. I thought they were extinct. We all thought that. During the war, we discovered their weakness. The Krath were not like other species. They were connected. All of them shared one mind. If you killed one, the others felt it. If you killed enough of them, the pain would spread through their whole network. He paused, his face dark with memory. I used that against them. I found their central hub, the place where their hive mind was strongest. I destroyed it. The shock killed most of them instantly. The rest went mad. We thought none survived. But some did, Admiral Chen said. A small group on the edge of their space, far enough from the hub that they survived the shock. For 20 years, they have been hiding, growing, rebuilding their numbers, and planning their revenge. How many are there now? The Emperor asked. We do not know exactly. Our spies estimate at least 50,000 ships, maybe more. The room went silent. 50,000 ships was a massive fleet. The Valorian Empire had perhaps 30,000 warships. The Human Federation had 20,000. Together, they might be able to fight the Krath, but it would be a terrible war. Why come here? Lyray asked. Why attack the Valorian Empire? Your war was with the humans. Thomas shook his head. They are not coming for your empire. They are coming for me. But they will destroy anything in their path. Anyone who protects me becomes their enemy. Then perhaps you should leave, one of the advisors said. He was a thin Valorian noble with cold eyes. Go back to human space. Let the Federation deal with this problem. Thomas did not react to the insult. He simply nodded. You may be right. I have brought danger to your door. I should face it alone. No, Lyray's voice was sharp. You are my husband. You are part of this family now. We do not abandon family. The princess speaks without thinking. One human is not worth. One human ended the Krath War. Emperor Caden said quietly. One human did what no other species could do. If the Krath are returning, we will need him. He looked at Thomas. You stayed hidden for 20 years. Why did you not stay hidden longer? Thomas was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Because they found the trail. They were getting close. If I had stayed hidden, they would have eventually found me here anyway. At least this way, we have time to prepare. How much time? A few weeks, maybe a month. The Emperor nodded slowly. Then we will use that time well. I will call our fleets home. I will send messages to our allies, and I will contact the Human Federation. He looked at Thomas. You said you led their fleet once. Will they listen to you again? Thomas exchanged a look with Admiral Chen. Some will, the old woman said. Thomas is a legend among our people. Many still call him a hero, but others blame him for what he did. They say he went too far. They may not want to follow him again. I do not need them to follow me, Thomas said. I just need them to fight. Over the next few days, the palace became a war camp. Soldiers and officers arrived from across the empire. Ships gathered in orbit around the planet. Messages flew back and forth between the Valorian Empire and the Human Federation. Thomas changed. The gentle gardener disappeared, and someone else took his place. He still spoke softly, but now there was iron in his voice. He still moved carefully, but now every movement had purpose. When he walked into a room, officers who had commanded armies fell silent and listened. Lyrae watched her husband transform. It was strange and frightening, but also beautiful in a way. This was who he really was, not a gardener pretending to be something else. A warrior who had been pretending to be a gardener. One night, she found him standing alone on a balcony, looking up at the stars. You cannot sleep, she said. I keep thinking about the last war, Thomas said. All the people who died, all the things I did. I thought I had left that behind. I thought I could be someone different. Lyrae stood beside him. You are someone different. The man who fought that war would not have spent years growing flowers. He would not have been happy with a quiet life. Maybe, Thomas sighed. But the galaxy does not care about who I want to be. It only cares about who I was. And who I was is the only thing that can stop what is coming. Then be who you were, for now. When this is over, you can go back to being a gardener. Thomas looked at her. Even in the darkness, she could see the love in his eyes. You make it sound so simple. Complicated is for people who think too much. He laughed. It was a small, tired sound, but it was real. I love you, he said. I know. I am very lovable. The next morning, a message arrived from the Human Federation. It was a video message, and it showed a man in a military uniform. He was young, with sharp features and hard eyes. Thomas Cole, the man said. I am Admiral Marcus Webb. I command the Federation fleet. I have received Emperor Caden's request for assistance. He paused. I will be honest with you. Many people in the Federation do not want to help you. They remember what you did. They call you a war criminal. Thomas watched the message with no expression. But I am not one of those people, Admiral Webb continued. I was a child when the Krath War ended. I grew up hearing stories about the Reaper. Some people feared you. Some people hated you. But you saved us. Whatever methods you used, you saved humanity. I have not forgotten that. The Admiral leaned forward. The Federation fleet will join your fight. Not because we owe you anything, not because we agree with what you did, but because the Krath are everyone's enemy. They will not stop with you. If we do not stand together, we will all fall apart. He nodded once. We are coming, Cole. Hold the line until we get there. The message ended. Thomas let out a breath he had been holding. Well, Lyrae said, it seems you have not been forgotten after all. No, Thomas agreed. For better or worse, I never will be. 3 days later, the Krath arrived. They came out of hyperspace like a swarm of insects. Thousands of ships, black and angular, filling the sky with their shadows. They did not send warnings. They did not make demands. They simply came, hungry for revenge. Thomas stood on the command bridge of the Valorian flagship. Around them, officers shouted orders and coordinates. The battle for the galaxy had begun, and the Reaper had returned. The Krath fleet hung in space like a dark cloud. Their ships were ugly things, all sharp edges and black metal. They did not shine. They did not reflect the light of the stars. They seemed to swallow light instead, leaving only shadows behind. Thomas studied the enemy formation on the tactical display. 40,000 ships, maybe more. The Valorian fleet had brought 25,000. The Human Federation fleet was still 2 days away. They were outnumbered. They were outgunned. Any sane commander would retreat and wait for reinforcements. Thomas was not a sane commander. He had never been one. They expect us to run, he said quietly. They think we will fall back and wait for help. Should we not do that? Asked Admiral Vorn, the Valorian fleet commander. He was a large man with silver skin and 4 arms. He had fought in many battles, but he had never faced the Krath before. No. If we retreat, they will chase us. They will hit us while we are moving, when we are weakest. We need to hold them here. Make them fight on our terms. With what? We are outnumbered almost 2 to 1. Thomas turned to face the Admiral. Something changed in his eyes. The gardener was completely gone now. Only the Reaper remained. The Krath have a weakness, Thomas said. They share one mind. That makes them strong in some ways. They can coordinate perfectly. They can react instantly. But it also makes them predictable. They think as one, which means they all make the same mistakes at the same time. He pointed to the tactical display. Their fleet is arranged in a standard attack pattern, dense in the center, lighter on the edges. They expect us to meet them head-on, strength against strength. That is how they always fight. That is how they expect everyone else to fight. But we will not do that. She had been listening quietly, learning everything she could. No, we will do something different. Thomas smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We will make them afraid. The plan was simple and insane. Thomas divided the Valorian fleet into 3 groups. The largest group would face the Krath directly, but they would not attack. They would hold position and draw the enemy's attention. The other 2 groups would swing around the sides, hiding in the sensor shadows of nearby asteroids and moons. When the Krath committed to their attack, these groups would strike the edges of the enemy fleet. We cannot destroy them, Thomas explained. We do not have enough ships for that. But we can hurt them. We can make them bleed. And every moment we hold them here is another moment for the Federation fleet to get closer. The battle began at dawn, Palace time. Not that time meant anything in space. But Thomas had learned long ago that soldiers fought better when they could pretend they were still connected to their home world. Dawn meant a new beginning. Dawn meant hope. The Krath attacked exactly as Thomas had predicted. They sent their fleet straight at the Valorian center, expecting to crush them with superior numbers. But the Valorians did not break. They held their formation, absorbing the attack, bending, but not breaking. Then the flanking groups struck. The Krath had not seen them coming. Their hive mind, so good at coordination, was not good at surprise. They all looked in the same direction at the same time. They all missed the same threat. Valorian ships tore into the edges of the Krath fleet. Explosions lit up the darkness of space. Krath ships died by the dozens, then by the hundreds. The hive mind felt every death. Thomas knew this. He was counting on it. They pulled ships from the center to reinforce the edges. Their perfect coordination became their weakness. When one part of the mind panicked, the whole mind panicked. Now, Thomas said, hit the center. The Valorian center, which had been holding back, suddenly surged forward. They crashed into the weakened Krath center like a hammer hitting glass. For 3 hours, the battle raged. Ships died on both sides. The darkness of space was filled with fire and debris. Thomas stood on the bridge, watching everything, giving orders in his soft, calm voice. Lyrae watched him with amazement. He saw things others could not see. He predicted moves before they happened. He knew exactly when to push and when to pull back. It was like watching someone play a game where only he knew all the rules. But the Krath were not stupid. They learned. They adapted. As the hours passed, they began to counter Thomas's tactics. They spread their formation wider, making flanking attacks harder. They protected their center better. The Valorian fleet was taking heavy losses. For every Krath ship they destroyed, they lost one of their own, and there were still more Krath than Valorians. "We cannot keep this up," Admiral Vorn said. His voice was grim. "We are losing too many ships." "I know," Thomas said, "but we do not need to win. We just need to survive until the Federation arrives." "Can we do that?" Thomas was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I do not know. Maybe. If we are lucky." That was when the Krath commander decided to end the game. A single ship separated from the Krath fleet. It was larger than the others, covered with strange symbols and glowing with dark energy. The Krath command ship. It flew straight toward the Valorian flagship. "They want me," Thomas said. "They know I am here. They want to kill me themselves." "Then we should retreat," Lyrae said. "Fall back, draw them away." "No," Thomas shook his head. "If we run, they will chase. They will catch us, and more people will die." He turned to face Lyrae. "I have an idea, but you are not going to like it." "What is it?" "I am going to board their ship. I am going to find their new hive center and destroy it. Just like I did 20 years ago." Lyrae felt the blood drain from her face. "That is suicide." "Probably. But it is the only way to stop them for good." "No, I forbid it. As your wife, I forbid it." Thomas took her hands. His touch was gentle, like when he touched his flowers. "Lyrae, my love, I have been running from this for 20 years, running from who I am, running from what I did, but I cannot run anymore. This is why I survived the first war. This is why I am still here. To finish what I started." Tears ran down Lyrae's face. "You promised me you would stay. You promised me we would face this together. And we will. But together does not mean the same place. You will command the fleet. You will hold them here. And I will do what only I can do. I do not know how to command a fleet. Yes, you do. You have been watching. You have been learning. You are stronger than you know." He kissed her forehead. "I believe in you. Now believe in yourself." He walked away before she could argue, before she could stop him. Admiral Chen was waiting in the shuttle bay. She had a small team of human soldiers with her. Old soldiers, gray-haired and scarred. Veterans of the First Krath War. "We are coming with you," she said. Thomas nodded. He did not argue. He knew better than to try to stop them. It was fast and quiet, built for sneaking into places where it was not welcome. As the shuttle flew toward the Krath command ship, Thomas looked back at the Valorian flagship. Somewhere on that ship, Lyrae was taking command. She was scared. She was uncertain. But she was also brave. Braver than she knew. Hold on, he thought. Just hold on a little longer. The shuttle disappeared into the darkness, heading toward the heart of the enemy. The Krath command ship was a nightmare made of metal. Thomas and his team moved through dark corridors that seemed to breathe. The walls were covered with strange growths, like the ship was alive. Maybe it was. Thomas had learned long ago not to underestimate the Krath. Admiral Chen walked beside him, her old bones somehow keeping pace. The other soldiers spread out around them, weapons ready. It feels like the old days, Chen whispered. Worse, Thomas replied. We were young then. We did not know what we were walking into. Now we know exactly how bad things can get. They found the hive center, deep in the heart of the ship. It was a massive chamber, filled with pulsing light. Thousands of craft filled the room, all connected to a central structure that looked like a giant brain made of crystal. The craft did not look like any other species in the galaxy. They had too many limbs, too many eyes. Their bodies were covered with hard shells that changed color with their thoughts. When Thomas entered the chamber, every single one of them turned to look at him. They knew who he was. Of course they did. He had haunted their collective memory for 20 years. Reaper. The voice came from everywhere at once, spoken by 1,000 mouths. You came to us. We hoped you would. Thomas said, I did not want to disappoint you. You killed our world, our people, our children. Billions of lives burned away in a single day. I know what I did. And now you will know what it feels like. We will destroy everything you love. Your wife, your new family, your adopted world. We will burn it all, just as you burned us. And you will watch. You will feel every death, just as we felt ours. Thomas stood very still. Around him, his soldiers raised their weapons. But there were too many Krath. If they fought here, they would die in seconds. I understand your anger, Thomas said. I have lived with it myself for 20 years. Every night, I see the faces of those I killed. I hear their screams. I cannot forgive myself for what I did. I do not expect you to forgive me either. The Krath were silent, listening. But I did not come here to ask for forgiveness. I came here to end this, one way or another. He took a step forward. The Krath hissed but did not attack. Not yet. Your people tried to conquer the galaxy. You destroyed hundreds of worlds before you came to human space. You gave us no choice. It was genocide, yes, the greatest crime in history. But the alternative was extinction. Yours or ours. I chose ours. And now we will make the same choice, the hive mind said. Your extinction. All of humanity. All of their allies. Everyone who ever helped you. Thomas nodded slowly. That is what I thought you would say. Which is why I brought this. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. It was simple looking, just a metal box with a single button. But Admiral Chen went pale when she saw it. Thomas, she whispered, is that? Yes. The same weapon we used 20 years ago. Improved, stronger. I kept it hidden all these years, hoping I would never need it again. The Krath hissed louder. Some of them stepped back, fear rippling through the hive mind. That device killed our world, the hive said. It can do the same to this ship, to your new hive center, to all of you. Thomas held up the device. But I do not want to use it. I am tired of killing. I am tired of being the monster everyone fears. So, I am going to offer you something no one has ever offered you before. What could you possibly offer us? Peace. Even the pulsing lights seemed to slow down. Your species has spent its entire existence conquering and destroying, Thomas said. You believe it is the only way to survive, but you are wrong. There are other ways, better ways. I have learned this myself, in a garden far from here. He thought of his flowers, his trees, the moon tears that bloomed in the palace garden, life growing instead of dying. If you continue this war, I will destroy you, all of you. I have done it before, and I can do it again. But if you choose peace, I will let you live. You can rebuild your civilization, not as conquerors, but as members of the galactic community. It will be hard, it will take generations, but it is possible. You expect us to trust you? The hive mind asked, after what you did? No, I expect you to trust your own survival instincts. I am offering you a choice that no one else will offer. War and extinction, or peace and survival. The decision is yours. For a long moment, nothing happened. Thomas stood perfectly still, his finger on the button. The craft surrounded him, thousands of eyes watching. Then, slowly, the craft began to lower themselves, not attacking, submitting. "We remember dying," the hive mind said. "The pain, the fear, we do not want to feel that again. If you truly offer peace, we will take it. But if you betray us, we will fight until the last one of us is dead." I understand. Outside, in the battle that still raged, something changed. The craft ships stopped firing. They pulled back, retreating to a safe distance. The Valorian fleet stopped too, confused and uncertain. On the bridge of the Valorian flagship, Lyrae watched the enemy withdraw. She did not understand what was happening, but she felt something in her heart. Hope, relief, and love. Hours later, Thomas's shuttle returned to the flagship. Lyrae was waiting in the landing bay when it arrived. When Thomas walked out, tired and bloody but alive, she ran to him and threw her arms around him. "You did it," she said. "I do not know how, but you did it." "We did it," Thomas said. "All of us." The war was over, not with a final battle, but with a conversation. It would take years to build real peace. There would be negotiations and treaties, arguments and setbacks. But the killing had stopped. The dying was done. Thomas and Lyrae returned to the palace. The gardens were waiting, untouched by the battle that had raged in the sky above. The moon tears still bloomed, blue and beautiful. Thomas knelt beside them, touching the petals gently. "I thought I would never see them again," he said. Lyrae knelt beside him. "They missed you. The whole garden missed you." It was a real smile now, warm and full of life. "I have a confession to make," he said. "Another secret? I thought we were done with those. A small one. When I first came here, I did not know anything about gardening. I had to learn everything from the beginning. I made so many mistakes. I killed more plants than I saved." Lyrae laughed. "The Great Reaper defeated by flowers. The flowers taught me something important. They taught me that life wants to grow. Even in the darkest places, even after the worst disasters, life finds a way. All it needs is a little help, a little patience, a little love." He took Lyrae's hand. "That is what I tried to give the craft today. Not forgiveness, not friendship, just a chance to grow, to become something different than what they were. Do you think they will take it? I do not know, but I hope so. Hope is all any of us have, in the end." They sat together in the garden as the sun set. The stars came out, the same stars that had been a battlefield just hours ago. Now they were peaceful again, scattered across the sky like seeds waiting to bloom. Thomas had been many things in his life: a soldier, a commander, a monster, a gardener. But now, sitting beside the woman he loved, surrounded by the flowers he had grown, he finally knew what he wanted to be. Just a man, living quietly, growing things instead of destroying them. The Reaper had finally laid down his scythe, and in its place he picked up a watering can. The story was not over. Stories never really end. But this chapter was complete. And it was, despite everything, a happy one. Lyrae leaned her head on Thomas's shoulder. "So what do we do now?" she asked. Thomas thought about it for a moment. Then he said, "Now we plant more flowers. And we watch them grow." And that is exactly what they did.